Okay, so questions for today. And the lucky dip, question number 1 is, I remember you said when looking for a partner, look for someone with a good heart. How do you tell whether a person has a good heart? Not faking it. Get a PA, what's it, a PI, the private detective. Check them out and invite them to come to the temple. Say, I don't want to go to those stupid temple, see those lazy monks. Then they haven't got a good heart. If they say, oh, what a good idea. Let's have Saturday night at the temple. And if you say that when you get married, where we'd like to go for honeymoon, if they say Jhana Grove, they've got a good heart. Anyway, yeah, so looking for a partner is actually, you've got to check them out first of all, and just, watch them. And after a while, you soon sort of suss them out. The trouble is, so, sometimes we want to see, we are looking for what we want to see. So you want to, this is a nice, again, like hot guy, really cool chick. You really want them to be just, nice. And so all those signs there, which everybody else can see, you can't. Because we want to fall in love. We want to find someone who we like. And as I mentioned to you many, many times, that's why people fall in love. Where do they fall in love? 3 places. Nightclubs, candlelit dinners, or walks in the moonlight. Those are romantic places. And why are they romantic? Because they all share the common feature of being dark. So you can't really see what you're falling in love with. In the flickering candlelight, your girlfriend, she may be 50 or 60, but she looks like some young, hot supermodel. And your man, he may be decrepit and disabled, but he looks like Brad Pitt or Superman in the candlelight, in the moonlight. It's true, because in the dark places, you can't see clearly. So your fantasies, your imagination, wishful thinking has more power to make that person in front of you look like your dream partner. So please, if you want to go out in the middle of the day and see your partner as they usually are. Don't fall in love at night time. Fall in love during the middle of the day if you're going to fall in love at all. Because then you actually see people who they really are, instead of the fantasy. And also, bring them to the temple, especially if it's a girl, and ask, Ajahn Brahm, this is my girlfriend, can you give her some holy water? Because when I sprinkle holy water, I usually sprinkle it generously, liberally. So much that her makeup falls off. The colour in her hair starts to drip. And you find out what she really looks like. It's like reality check. So again, choose one with a good heart. Someone who's kind. And this is for guys. Never marry a beautiful woman. Because you get so jealous. Everybody else looking at her. Because she's beautiful, she's attractive, so other people would covet her. Marry an ugly woman, and then she will never commit adultery. You can trust her. And you girls never marry a rich guy. If he's really rich, he can afford more than you. So girls marry poor guys, guys marry ugly women. It's common sense, isn't it? I don't know why other people can't see that. That's why I'm a monk. Dear Ajahn, your invention of meditation, are you serious or joking? Please teach me the 3rd method, breath out 2 times and in 1 time, properly, as I can't do it. The practice, come on. No, it's a bit of fun and games, but it's making the method of actually be playful in meditation. And in life, because when you're playful, you're innovative, and you actually see new things. So don't be so serious. You've been on retreats where people are so serious, there's not one smile at all. And even the teacher is grim. And yeah, I mean, if you want to do things like that, join the army. Go and sort of do something wrong, go to prison if you really want that sort of discipline. But look, this is a meditation, this is Buddhism, this is religion, this is kindness, compassion, building people up. So a little bit of playful gives you joy. Look, I know that some of you hang out for the evening question and answer time because you've had such a miserable day. And at least I can cheer you up so you go to bed with a smile on your face. It's really tough work meditating all day. So you can see the purpose of joy and happiness. It makes people want to come back to meditate again. So it's the psychological trick to get you come back again, do deeper meditation, until you can have some nice peaceful mind states. So a little bit of play in meditation is really good. So even when you're sitting in meditation, look, if you're getting really tired and sleepy during the day when you're meditating here, turn around and meditate the opposite way. So you're actually sitting the opposite way. Just do something different. Instead of putting your hands in many mudras, you can put your hands on your laps with your thumbs touching. You can put them like the Tibetan. Put one on your head, one behind the back. Do it different. You try that, and it actually works because that's right. It's doing something different. It keeps you mindful. You don't fall asleep, and you think this is really silly. So it actually engages you. That's why people pay attention, because it's fun. Why are you all paying attention to me right now? Because it's fun, isn't it? That's mindfulness. That's how to stabilize mindfulness. If what you're watching is fun and enjoyable, you don't need to force the mind. That's one of the ways which we can develop sort of the focus, the stillness. If what we're watching is enjoyable and fun, we don't have to put any effort at all. It's natural. So the way that you look at me when I'm giving a talk, because it's fun and enjoyable, it's also interesting as well. The same way when you look at your meditation, or whether it's the breath, a nimitta, whatever, if it's fun and enjoyable, interesting, it's so easy to get samadhi and focus. You don't want to wander off. The only reason why you wander off in meditation is because you're bored. The only reason why some people give talks and they look at their watch, they SMS or whatever it is, because they're bored when they're giving talks. And hopefully you know that you never get bored when Ajahn Brahm's giving a talk, because there's a joke coming up soon. Why? Why end of chanting? It's not born again into this world. What is the last life? This life and the next life. This is not the first time you were born. Hopefully this is the last time. Because look, do you really want to get reborn again? Do you really want to be... Look, imagine you have to wear nappies again. And as soon as you ask for something, your mother bungs this thing in your mouth. Whoa, whoa, whoa. And you can't do anything. And you have to go to school again. You know, all that homework. And I thought it was great. I finished school at last. I don't have to go do all this homework and assignments anymore. You might have to. Or go all over again. My goodness. And those of you who've been married and have had enough of being married, having enough of having a husband or a wife, be careful. If you get reborn again, here we go again. All this stuff again. Haven't you had enough? So the best thing is to make this your last life, so you're not born again into this world. Because if you do lots of metta, the metta chant, which is another way of letting go, and you get beautiful metta nimittas. You let go of the world of the five senses and go to the world of the mind, which means you never come back to this world. You become a non-returner, an anagami. So you go to the Sudawasa, the land of the anagamis, place of the anagamis, never to return here again. It's much more fun. So you can actually graduate. So how many times do you have to go back to the same class again, again, again? Graduate. Let go of this place. Although I have not had any light shows or fireworks in my meditation, I'm really, really enjoying this retreat. It's such a rare and wonderful opportunity to have this much quiet space and time to meditate, and not having to talk is awesome. Whether you live in a monastery or outside in the lay world, there can be a lot of busyness and work to be done that is out of one's control. Any tips, advice on how to deal with these while still protecting and trying to establish one's meditation practice? It's great. Whoever wrote this, well done. Don't need fireworks. What's really more important is you're enjoying the retreat and getting some peace and happiness. All that fireworks, that will come in due course. It has to come. As long as you're enjoying the retreat, having some peace and happiness, you are a success. As I say, when people say, oh, I saw this beautiful nimitta, I saw the fireworks, I saw the Buddha, I saw this. Yeah, come on, are you happy and peaceful? And the happiness and peacefulness is more important as far as I'm concerned. But when you go out in the world, there's a lot of busyness. None of it's out of control. Any tips and advice of how to deal with these? Yes, don't go back to the world. Ordain. Shave your hair, just like Kemanti, like me. What do you want to go back there for? Gee, you must be dumb. Or if you have to go back, simplify, downsize. Now, how big an apartment or a house do you want? And a lot of times, you know what it is, people aspire. They've got a nice apartment, they want to get a bigger one, especially in Singapore, or a house and a garden, more rooms, more things to clean. Or if you've got a maid, more problems getting the maid to do it right, or, getting another maid because she doesn't do it right. Oh my goodness, it's so... Having a small house, people think, you're stupid, why didn't you show off? It's not showing off, having a big house, it's being stupid. How many rooms can you stay in at one time? Only one. Look, this is one of those stories which I'll never forget. I went to this blessed house it was in Shelley, which is a riverside suburb in Perth. It was a mansion. There's beautiful views over the river. And when I asked, there was such a big house, this is no exaggeration. I arrived from here, it was about an hour's journey. I went into the room and sat down and said, look, I need to go to the toilet. Where's the toilet? And most people say, just out the door there and turn left. But this was a mansion. It was too complicated to say directions like that, so she actually wrote me a map. It was true, she wrote me a map on a piece of paper how to get to the toilet. It was that big a mansion. And you see, in Perth here, this is one of the worst places in the world. People have these huge houses. Whenever you get one of these new houses in Perth, it always comes with a free GPS to navigate your way around your big mansion. But when I came back from the toilet, I was just talking with the woman who was offering the meal that day. I don't know how many bedrooms there may be, 10, 12, 14 bedrooms or something. And I asked her, how many people live in this house with you? She said, only me, just me. And that really just hit me hard. There was this lady in this huge mansion all by herself. I said, why didn't somebody else come and stay with you? She said, well, I'm so afraid of my family. She was a very wealthy woman because every time the family came was to borrow something, borrow some money. What about your friends? They're the same. They want some money. I'm so afraid of my friends and family because they're always asking for money. That's why I live by myself. And I was really, really sad. She was a prisoner of her wealth, afraid to share it, so she lived in this big prison. And I thought, that's so sad. I'd rather prefer to live in a small apartment in one of the roughest suburbs, with lots of people, your friends and family, with always welcome to come around, you share things. That's much more fun. So, in the world, downsize, don't upsize. Live in a smaller apartment with lots of friends, with neighbours you can trust, rather than these big suburbs and big mansions with big crooks. So when you live simply, you don't need so much money, you don't need to stress out so much. It's amazing how simply you can live. You don't need sort of designer clothes. Look at me, I don't have designer robes. This is not made by Versace. I don't have Gucci underwear. I'm simple and happy. So you do the same. So that way that when you live out there in the world, it's much easier for you. You don't have money problems, you don't have worries, because you don't need so much. Sometimes when I meditate, I get a feeling that can only be described like tickling a baby with feathers. Ooh, it's very pleasurable and occurs in the chest area and stomach. Other times I get an intense surge and shooting from the bottom of my chest to the top of my head. Can you please shed some light as to what these can be. Thank you. Yeah, this is actually starting like the arising of joy. It's called piti, but it's in the physical piti. It feels very delightful. So wonderful, well done. After a while, that joy, that delight, will just calm the body down, that the body will disappear, and all that joy will go into the mind. That's where you see nimittas. It's a good sign. It gets on and gets some pleasure. It's still locked into the body, but if you liberate that pleasure just to go to the sixth sense, the mind, then you're really enjoying yourself. It's still a good sign. It's nice. Please define right mindfulness. Right mindfulness is over here. Left mindfulness is over here. Okay. Seriously, that right mindfulness is many different levels. It is a mindfulness which is not seeking for things, not wanting things, but is just aware and clear of the five hindrances. Because if your five hindrances are there, the mindfulness is distorted. You may think you're being aware of something, but again, you're seeing what you want to see. Just as I said, like, the boy and girl going to the nightclub. They're seeing what they want to see, not what's truly there. That's called the first hindrance of craving, desire. Or sometimes, you're mindful. It's really true. That person is, a really nasty person. They're really insensitive. They keep banging the doors. And that's with ill will. You're seeing things in the other person just to justify your anger. Your mindfulness is being bent. They're not a bad person. I said they're a person who sometimes does bad things, just like me, just like you. So when you see the full picture, the mindfulness doesn't have ill will or craving. It just sees things as they are. This is the person. That's just what they do. That's what I do. We're just people, human beings, that's all. And also sometimes with craving. So sometimes with restlessness. If you're restless, that's not mindfulness, seeing here and all over the place. You're not staying long enough to see things, like the simile of walking up the hillside. If you walk slowly, you see much more. So real mindfulness is when there's no restlessness, perfectly still, so you can see the big picture. And also, right mindfulness is not when you're sleepy and dull, because you don't know what's going on. It's like being in the mist. And the last part is like doubt. It says, like the Buddha said, that's like being lost in the desert. You don't know which way to go. Which reminds me of a story about there was a man lost in the desert, and he'd been lost in the desert for days. Deserts, and there's no water, and it's very hot. And the poor man was dehydrated, sunstroke, and so he was crawling around, almost on his last breath, parched, thirsty. And in the distance, he saw something coming towards him. He thought it was a mirage, especially when he saw what looked like a dog sled with somebody driving a pack of huskies. And he thought, no, I must be losing my mind. It's a mirage. The sun's got to my brain. But as it came closer, it became clearer. And my goodness, it was a dog sled with an Eskimo in front, driving the huskies. It was real, especially when the dogs came right up to him and started licking him. He could actually feel it wasn't imagination anymore. And he realized someone had rescued him. And he burst out, "Thank you, I've been lost in this desert for days. You saved me, it's a miracle, thank you so much." And the driver of the sled said, "And you think you're lost?" An Eskimo in the desert, okay. Oh, dear. So that's the other hindrance. You don't know what you're supposed to be doing, because you can't really be mindful. You're just looking for answers. So you stop, be still, and then you have all the mindfulness you need. So when there's no hindrances, that's right mindfulness. Is Satipatthana to be practiced before or after jhanas? In the Satipatthana Sutta, it is stated that having abandoned the five hindrances, one abides in the Satipatthana. Yeah. However, Samasati comes before Samasamadhi in the Eightfold Path. Yeah, you suppress the five hindrances, and actually that is a cause for actually attaining the jhanas. It's the hindrances to wisdom and the hindrances to samadhi. But especially when those five hindrances are gone, no desire, no craving, you're at peace with things. No ill will, which means you have loving kindness, metta. No restlessness, you're still. No drowsiness, you've got energy. No doubt, then the path into jhanas is open to you. You can be totally still. When you want something, there's no stillness. When there's something you don't like, I don't want to be nimjas, I want to be different. That's ill will. Then you can never get into jhanas. So think of those 5 hindrances, especially the first 2, wanting and ill will. That's a hindrance to samadhi. It's a hindrance to just being here, being content still. I mentioned this morning that restlessness, all restlessness is caused by discontent. You don't want to be here, you want to be somewhere else. That's why you move. If you're really content, happy to be here, there's no reason to move. And that's where the end of restlessness comes from. And as for dullness, that's just a lack of energy. Because you've been thinking, wanting, ill will. It's a result of all of that, so you're tired. If you can just stay with the restless, the dullness, after a while it just vanishes by itself. Energy comes back. So these are the hindrances. They stop you getting into deep meditation. So once those hindrances are finished, then you have right mindfulness. You can actually see what's really going on, and it's very easy to develop from there into the jhanas. Now, a serious question. A practical question. When one meditates for a while, one gets saliva accumulated in the mouth. Does one swallow it, triggering the taste sense and disturb the rest of the people meditating, not do anything and choke on it and collapse? Let it drool out and drip, causing a pool of water on the floor, or all of the above? If that's a problem for you, what you should do is to buy one of these machines from the dentist. You put it in the mouth over here, and it sucks it out. So you can meditate without any saliva problem. You been to the dentist and had those? We should have a couple of those in. Danny, could you order a couple of those for the retreat? We can have those for people with saliva problems. Now look, keep it simple. So if you feel like you've got some saliva, just swallow it and have done with it. And after a while, you swallow it a couple of times, you forget about it then, because it's just natural. When you're watching a movie, do you bother about your saliva? Do you drool during Harry Potter? No, because it's natural, so you just keep it natural and it's no problem at all. You worry about it and you make a problem. You mentioned that jhanas were a monk's and nun's true protection from sensual pleasures of the world. However, it can take some time for the achievement of these states, so what should one do in the meantime to protect oneself from pointless distractions? Should we also do a super meditation like 32 parts of the body? Other traditions, for example, Goenka Vipassana emphasize on the importance of letting go of the body. Yes, that's why we all say letting go of the body is very good. So yeah, you can do sort of, the super meditations, which are like looking at disgust. So I already mentioned one of those on food. See, there's actually shit in there somewhere, because it must come from somewhere. It doesn't just appear in the body. What goes in comes out. So what comes out has to have gone in there somewhere. So that would make you a bit disgusted at the food. Or you can imagine that your boyfriend or girlfriend, and this is actually what we do for young monks, the novices, actually when they ordain. From the time of the Buddha, in the novice ordination ceremony, we teach them the 5 reflections: hair of the head, hair of the body, nails, teeth, and skin. That's tradition. And the reason they do that, because we tell these young men, if ever you see a beautiful floozy coming into the monastery, what are you actually seeing? You're seeing her beautiful hair, her lovely skin, beautiful teeth or whatever. They say this is the outer part of her body, what you see. Hair of the head, hair of the body, nails, teeth, and skin. But then you reflect the hair of the body, or of the head first of all. What you actually see is all dead stuff, because the live part of hair, the hair roots, are buried under the skin. You cannot see them. Same with hair of the body. What you ever see is just dead. The live bit is underneath. It's the same with teeth. You all know you've been to the dentist. This is all dead. Underneath the root is what you can't see. Nails are the same. What you see here is dead. The live part is hidden. And even the skin, the outside of the skin is dead. The live part is a millimetre or two underneath. So what you actually see when you see a beautiful supermodel come in is all dead. Dead stuff. Yuck. Who would want to touch that dead hair? Or kiss dead skin? Oh, come on. So what it does, actually, a couple of times we've had supermodels on the retreat. True. Once over in Perth, in the retreat centre, the North Perth Retreat Centre, we used to have a retreats there. I was told there was an actress, a very famous Thai actress, a very beautiful girl. She came to one of my retreats. I only found out afterwards because there was an abnormally number of young Thai men came to learn meditation. We didn't usually get so many men. And the other time was actually in Malaysia, in Kuala Lumpur. There was a supermodel came on one of my retreats there. And again, there's a lot of men came to listen to the Dhamma talks. Very famous. But actually, I don't know a supermodel because you take off all of the designer clothes and hairstyles and makeup and they just look like anybody else. So they had to tell me afterwards. I'd find out which one was it. Was that old lady over there? Or I am a good monk. So that's actually why we do a super meditation. So you just see it's just a girl, it's just a boy. Actually, you don't see it's a girl or boy, it's a human, it's a person. It's so nice being a monk. Look at each one of you, old or young, beautiful, ugly, I don't care, you're a person. And actually I can relate to you as a person, as a human being, not as a sex object, not as romance, not a potential partner. It's so freeing to do that. So you can look at people without any sort of gender or sex or whatever. Treat people like humans. Anyway, so that's what we do. And also, if you imagine like squeezing your loved one, giving her a good hug. Remember, she's like toothpaste tube. If you squeeze too hard, all the stuff comes out. Monks have a lot of fun being gross. We can get away with it. How do we maintain meditative state of mind or present moment awareness when we go back to work? At work, we need to do so much future planning for different scenarios. There's one guy who told me that he does the 1 minute meditation every hour on the hour at his office. So when it gets to the top of the clock, 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, 1 o'clock or whatever, he stops for 1 minute, he closes his eyes, and he just sits there for 1 minute, just being mindful, being still. When his boss comes past, he looks at him with his eyes closed. Well, he must be thinking about the next contract. Because no one knows what you're doing with you've got your eyes closed. Well, the bosses can't read your mind. So you can get away with 1 minute. If you try 10 minutes or 15 minutes, your boss thinks you've gone to sleep and hits you. But 1 minute you can get away with. And so 1 minute every hour on the hour he meditates. And no one knows. And also, because he does 1 minute, he just collects himself, relaxes and rests, which means his mental efficiency increases afterwards. Literally, he gets more work done in the remaining 59 minutes because he's rested, recollected, given himself a bit of peace. So you can try that, the 1 minute meditation method. But if you're a boss and you see your worker every hour on the hour, closing his eyes, you know where he's got it from. He's not contemplating the contract. He's listened to my talk. At this morning's talk, Ajahn said it was a reaction of the complainant towards the chattering. Does that mean Buddhists should not react or comment on anything and everything? Well, don't comment on anything, but you comment too much. Shut up. Just be still. Why do you always have to comment on everything? So a lot of times it's things we don't know. None of my business, I don't know. Actually, why am I commenting all these questions? Maybe I'll finish them. Yeah, just comment less, and then you'll see more. How should I continue practice when I'm back in our busy city life? This is another question like this. You've got another 3 or 4 days to go yet. Be in the present moment. Who knows, when you go back, Singapore might not be there. impermanence. It may be flooded, an earthquake, tsunami, who knows? So you may not have a life when you get back there. You may die this evening. Well, you've got to die one day. Look, how many people in this room? 70 people in this room, maybe. Okay, according to statistics, by this time next year, maybe 1.5 of you will be dead. Some of you are half dead already, but no. I mean, on average, about 1.5 of you will be dead. Because a certain number of people have to die every year. Which one is it? Don't just look at the old ones. The young ones die as well. Who's it going to be? It's going to be one of you. You take it. No. Okay, promises. Write it down on a piece of paper. Contract. No. So you don't know when you're going to die. So because of that, please don't go worrying about the future so much. What are you going to do when you get into the late life? Crikey, you've got a few more days to go. That's what happens. You know, how many of you already packed your bags? You don't leave until Sunday or Saturday at least. Gee. Mahamoggallana was attacked before he died, but he was still an arahat, an enlightened being. But in yesterday's questions and answers, it seems to suggest an enlightened being would not be executed or have an unpleasant death. Could you clarify this point? Thanks very much. I was talking about Jesus. Yeah, because I didn't say he wouldn't get executed. I said he had some bad karma to be executed. And Mahamoggallana had some bad karma. And his bad karma was, I think he killed his parents in a previous life. So that was the result of doing a very bad karma. But, Mahamoggallana, yeah, he was actually beaten up and attacked before he died, but he died with a smile on his face, peaceful. He was easy. But actually, did Jesus die on the cross? I said yesterday, I will tell you the story. Jesus was a Buddhist. Okay, let's start the story. Because being sort of born in England, you were brainwashed with Christianity at school, and so you had to learn all the stories. And the story was that when Jesus was born, even though he had many brothers, he only had a virgin mother, which was a bit strange. Even then, James, a brother of Jesus. I say, if he had a brother, how could his mother be a virgin? She must have been immaculately conceived twice. Twin, yeah, or something like that, yeah. Anyhow, apparently they had to flee to Egypt because of some persecution. And look, refugees, where do they go? Now, even the Australian governments, if they have refugees, they like to settle them in the country areas where maybe they can use some work, but they all come to the cities because that's where the work is. So where would Jesus' family go in Egypt, where the work was? The town of Cairo was a small village 2,000 years ago. The capital was Alexandria. That was a huge capital of Egypt. So Jesus would have gone, almost absolute 100% certainty, to Alexandria. Around 4 AD, there was a historian called Philo of Alexandria who wrote a detailed report of the city of Alexandria at that time. Maybe a few years, literally maybe 5, 6, 7 years, give or take a few years here and there, before Jesus' family would have come there. And one of the things which he described was a monastery. And it was called, the people living there was called the Therapeutae. They were highly regarded, but the only description they had of the Therapeutae was they had bald heads, totally bald, brown robes, vegetarian, and celibate. And they celebrated the moon days. When I first saw that, I thought, that sounds like Buddhist monks. There were no monks in the traditions of Judaism before the time of Buddhism. Buddhism invented monasticism, maybe the Jains as well, but there was no such thing as monks at that time from any of those traditions. And bald heads, celibate, vegetarian. When I read that, that's obvious, that's Buddhist monks. I remember talking about that with some of the monks in Thailand, because I was still at Thailand when I started reading this. And one of the monks, he was from Switzerland, and he'd studied ancient Greek. And so I asked him as a favor, look, when you go back home, can you actually get out the original? Because translations are never reliable. And please check it out, what you think, because you're a Buddhist monk, you know what Buddhist monks are. Is that really true? In the original Greek, does it sound like a Buddhist monk? And he thought I was crazy. But he wrote this letter back to me, from Bern. He said he'd been in the university that afternoon, got a copy of the original Greek, and he said it's a dead ringer for Buddhist monks. If you read the original Greek, it's obvious that they were Buddhist monks in Alexandria, highly respected. Therapeutai is a corruption of the word Theravada. The V's and B's changed. Benares was Varanasi. T's and D's sometimes get changed, from culture to culture. That was Theravada monks. And that's pretty accurate. What they were doing there was a well-established trade route. In the early, maybe 22,500 years ago, there was one of the rulers of Alexandria who was the Philadelphus Ptolemy, and that was at exactly the same time of Asoka, about 200 years before the Common Era. And he built a port, not on the Red Sea, but south of Egypt, to take the trade from India. The trade route, there were two trade routes. There was the Silk Route overland, there was also the sea route. And it came from the port of Soparaka, which was just outside of Mumbai. And it went across the Gulf. One of the places where it stopped was the current city of Aden, which was called, I think, Felix Arabia or something at that time. And it's a well-known stopping point where I think the historians noted there were many Jews, Greeks, and Indians who were there. At the port city on sort of the lower Egypt, where it was on the Red Sea, because the Red Sea comes up from the Gulf. It was on the Red Sea, and there he built a port. And to this day, there are tombstones there with Dhammachakas on, with Buddhang Saranang Gacchami, Dhammang Saranang Gacchami, Sanghang Saranang Gacchami, dating from that time, 2nd century BCE, of Buddhists, Indians, who were, at their end of the trade route. Just like, you have expats. If the Singapore company has an operation in London, they send their people over there. So the Indians were in Aden, they were in Lower Egypt, and they were also in the capital of Alexandria, 200 years before. Philadelphus Ptolemy, in some of the works which were done for him, the writings, was saying the Indians would always do the dancing in the great processions there, and he really welcomed them into his kingdom. The Indian community was in Alexandria, recorded at least 200 years before the time of Christ. And the Asoka columns say that he sent missionaries to Philadelphus Ptolemy. That's on that's the Asoka columns in stone, still there today. So that's where that group of monks come from. We know there were Indians in Alexandria 200 years, BCE. We know they were Buddhists because we've got the gravestones, with the Dhammachakra and also, the triple gem, Buddhang Saranang Gacchami. And we have these Therapeutai monks. It's very easy to join the dots. They were Buddhist monks from India. That's where they came from. And an interesting point, which always struck me, was Philo of Alexandria. He mentioned this monastery. He said, there's even more of these monks, thousands of them, further south. And that started interesting me. In other parts of Egypt were the monasteries, and that was basically desert, wilderness at that time. What did he mean? And when you actually look at the trade route, down south was actually where all of the boats came from. That's where the Indian influence come from. Down south from Alexandria meant India. Because you go south from Alexandria and eventually you go east, but that's what he meant. So, he was connecting those Therapeutae with the Theravada monks in India at that time. So, if Jesus went to Alexandria, it's pretty well established there was a thriving, well-respected Buddhist monastery in that very town. And if anybody was interested in any type of spirituality, you would check out all of the spiritual people, and that was the one which stood out. So I would say certainly he would have visited that place. So it's pretty well established that Jesus was exposed to Buddhism, to Theravada Buddhism. There's a monastery there. He stayed there for many years. Now the missing years of Jesus. If he had gone to that place, if he'd have got interested, it's very often the monks, if someone's, in the early days here, if someone got interested in Buddhism, we send them to Thailand or Sri Lanka or something. Go to the center where you get proper training. That's why I got interested in Buddhism in London. And I actually asked to ordain there. He said, no, don't go ordain here. Go to Thailand. Go to the main monastery there. The main monasteries at that particular time were in Kashmir. At that time in India, it was the empire of Kanishka, who ruled India from Kashmir. He had a very, very strong, it was a Sarvastivadin tradition. And again, they're very similar to Theravada. No Mahayana yet, hadn't really developed, or was sort of developing in the southern part of India, but not in the Kashmir Valley. And if Jesus would have gone anywhere, that's where he would have been sent, to where the main monasteries were, the center of power. Basically, the headquarters of Buddhism was in Kashmir. So would have gone there. So was there any record in Kashmir of Jesus going there? And the answer was, yes, there is. Because there was this famous story of a count, he was from Eastern Europe, who was trekking just to the east of Kashmir in what's usually called Ladakh. And he had a fall, broke his leg. And the only place to recover was the local monastery. So he was allowed to recover in the local monastery, a few herbal treatments until he got his strength back. And being a scholar, obviously being in there, he studied some of the local languages. He asked the abbot if he could just fossick in the library and see some old manuscripts. And that's where he saw this manuscript which described a man called Issa, who had come from Palestine at that time to study Buddhism. And he described Issa as going back to Palestine and being crucified, surviving, and coming back to teach in Ladakh later on. That's what it said. As soon as he recovered, he went back to the West and published his work, causing a great controversy that, how on earth can you say that Jesus was a Buddhist? But he said the evidence is there, there's a book. So they sent more people to check up to see if it was right, if the book was there. When I ordained, they weren't allowed to go in that library because the abbot had gone over to China. It was a Tibetan monastery where they found this old manuscript. Had gone over to China, gone over to Tibet, when the Chinese invaded, and he hadn't returned yet. Obviously, he'd been killed, but no one knew yet. So when I first ordained, I heard that story, but no one had checked. But after a while, they realized the abbot was never coming back, so they elected a new abbot, and they let the scholars into the library again. The manuscript's there. It's real. It's true. So if Issa had actually gone back, after the crucifixion, which this document says, and was living in that area, the Kashmir Valley, is there any other evidence that he was there? And of course, there is more evidence. The local people in Srinagar, which is the capital of Kashmir, have claimed for unknowable years that they have the grave of Jesus where he was buried. And if you see any documentary, you'll see that they called him, the Muslims called him Joseph or Yusuf. You know, when names go from one country to another, they do actually change slightly. Now, my name, as before, was Peter. In Thailand, it became Peter. There's some ties here. One of my friends, he was a Japanese monk. Now, his Pali name is Kawasako. He's quite well known in Thailand. He lives over in Kanchanaburi. But his name was Shibahashi. Now, Shibahashi was very difficult for Ajahn Chah to say. So he called him Sibat Hasip. Now, what does Sibat Hasip mean? It means 4 baht 50. Basically, $4.50. Because that was the closest Thai word, you know, to Shibahashi. $4.50. So Ajahn Chah would always call him $4.50. And that became his nickname. If I ever see him, you know, I call him $4.50. How are you going? You know, it's just, you know, it's just nice having friends and you call them these names. But you can see how like names changes. You know, Jesus would be Issa in Sanskrit. And it would be Yusuf, you know, in sort of the Arabic, which dominated once that area became Muslim. And so they got the grave there. Now, what happened, there was another saint later on, they buried that Muslim saint on top. So they've had a hard time excavating. They can't get permission to excavate that to see whether it really was Jesus or whether there's any evidence that this fellow was crucified. But strange enough, the only evidence on the surface of this saint who lived at that time, Yusuf, they have footprints in metal to record that this saint lived there. Now, of course, what religion recognizes their holy people by footprints? Sri Lankan, how many of you have been up Siripada, where there's a Buddha's footprint? Or in sort of Paputabhat in Thailand, Buddha's footprint. For some reason or another, in Buddhism, we venerate the footprint of a holy person. And there's a footprint there, 2 footprints. And on this BBC documentary, there's something strange, there's a couple of scars on those footprints, you know, which you wonder what the scars are doing there. And in this documentary they showed a person who's crucified has a nail put through their feet would have scars just like that. You may say circumstantial, but sometimes all the evidence put together all points to one and the same thing. Jesus was a Buddhist. So once we establish that, and hopefully people will actually take the evidence and treat it seriously. Once we establish that Jesus was a Buddhist, then we have to convert the Pope, and the Vatican will become our great Buddhist temple over in Italy. So we won't have to build any more big temples. We've already got one. It really belongs to us. Just we need to claim it now. Yes.
So if Jesus was exposed to Theravada Buddhism,
Yeah.
but yet he went on to a brand new marketing campaign about the Son of God and all that, does it mean that he has rejected Theravada Buddhism?
Oh, you say that then Jesus went on to this big campaign about being the Son of God, did he? And of course, well, if you look at what scholars say, all we have about Jesus' teachings is in the four Gospels, and there's hardly anything there about his teachings. What we know about the teachings of Buddhism is actually said by St. Paul. And so many scholars, if you actually look at it with a critical mind, say what we take as Christianity today is more accurately called the teachings or interpretations of Paul. All this Son of God business, all of the other sayings that there's no way except to God through me, that's from Paul. There's no record that Jesus actually said that. So what did Jesus actually teach? In the town of Nag Hammadi, to the south of Egypt again, at about the same time the Dead Sea Scrolls were found, an archaeologist saw a small herder lighting his fire with ancient papyrus and stopped him and said, "Can I have a look at that?" Because he recognized that was ancient pieces of papyrus. And when he saw that, he saw these were ancient scrolls. He managed to buy the rest of them, and that became known as the Nag Hammadi Library because it was found in the small town of Nag Hammadi. Teachings of Jesus, now known as the Gnostic Gospels. We got a copy of that in the library at Bodhinyana, as much as being translated. There you have Jesus saying, "He who knows themselves knows the truth of all things." There you see, in the Gospel of Thomas the Contender, these aren't in the Christian Bible, taken out, if they ever actually got close to it. There you find one of my favorite stories, the story of God in his heaven. And God saying, "I am the creator, the omniscient, the omnipresent, the Lord of all who is, the one who should be worshipped." And then a few other, he goes on like that. And then he hears a sound, "No, you're not. Don't get above yourself. There's other beings far superior than you." And God said, "Who said that? I don't know who said that. Who said that?" In the teachings of Jesus. That's called the Gnostic Gospel. What Elaine Pagels, who translated most of it, calls suppressed Christianity. Huge amounts of teachings of Jesus, which were there from the earliest days, and were got suppressed by the organized church from Rome. Try to get burnt, but when you try and burn things, suppress them, there's always some turn up somewhere. Someone hides them in a pot and gets discovered many centuries later. The Gnostic Gospels. They're fascinating. They're there. Don't make this up. This is not a joke. This is real. So the evidence is actually very, very strong. Okay, I've got to go through, I won't finish these questions. I'll go to another sort of 15 minutes. I have to leave some for tomorrow. I am finding it hard to let go and my meditation is getting worse as this retreat progresses. Any suggestions? Many thanks. Or just give up. Don't try to meditate anymore. And then you'll be very, 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 very peaceful. You've been trying too hard. You've been doing what I said in the first part of this retreat. Second Noble Truth meditation. Want. That's why it gets worse. So instead, just let go. Third Noble Truth meditation. Just be content to be here. Don't try to meditate, just have a good time. You don't have to do any work. You get fed beautiful food. You can sleep whenever you want, go for a walk. No work, nobody telling you what to do. Oh, brilliant. When you're content and happy to be here, then meditation works. Whoever wrote that question, you've been trying too hard. You've been wanting something. You're trying to get somewhere instead of being here. Would you please teach us what are all the cause and effects of jhanas? Thank you very much. Can we... Not thinking too much. Stillness, joy. Jhanas are deep states of contentment. Really powerfully content. Where you don't move. Where nothing moves. And everything disappears. Can one be contented with discontentment? As soon as you're contented with discontentment, it's not discontentment anymore. As soon as you're interested in boredom, then it's not boredom anymore. So you see, whatever you're watching, it's your reaction which makes it boring or contented or discontented. Doesn't matter what it is you're looking at, experiencing, feeling. It's how you relate to it makes it boredom or interesting. They say one man's meat is another man's tofu. So it's just how you react to things, that's all it is. I've got all these new sayings now. Because we have all these sayings in English, to kill two birds with one stone. And that's a Christian saying. We should change for Buddhism, to cut two carrots with the same knife. To cut two carrots with one knife instead of kill two birds with one stone. Okay. You give a person a fish, you feed him for one day. You teach a person to fish, and they break their 5 precepts forever. That's wrong. So you give a person a carrot, you feed them for one day. You teach a person how to grow a veggie garden, you feed them for life. So Buddhist sayings. Okay, anyway, please explain to us the basic and proper etiquette to monks, e.g. our feet should not be pointed towards you. You can point, your feet have been pointing towards me for a long time. Has it done anything to me? And sometimes it's supposed to be bad, but they've done it and I've tested it out and I feel exactly the same. So it's superstition. The main way to pay respect to a monk is with your heart, not with your body. And at the end of this retreat, some of you say, oh, thank you so much for what you've done. At least I hope you say that. And what can I get for you, Ajahn Brahm? Is there anything I can do for you? You helped me so much. And the answer is, the only way you can pay respect to a teacher is to be a kind, happy, peaceful person. So when I see you meditating and getting joy and bliss, then you paid off any debt you have to your teacher. That's the proper etiquette to monks, to be good students. So you're so happy and peaceful, making progress, becoming less troubled, happier, peaceful beings. That's the etiquette. That's the way to pay respect. There's a story of this monk Dhammarama. When the Buddha announced he was going to pass away, all the monks came to see him for the last teachings, to do services, just to make sure he was okay. The teacher was about to die, let's look after him. All except this one monk. And the other monks started to complain, look, this monk is not doing his duty to the teacher, it's bad etiquette. So the Buddha summoned him and said, why haven't you come to see me and do your services? And he said, I have been doing services, because I've remembered all you taught us. And so for the last 3 months I've been meditating day and night, really sort of practicing well. And the Buddha turned around to the monks and said, this is the only monk who's been properly paying respect to me. That's how you pay respect to a teacher. By following their example and doing what would make them pleasing. How do you pay respect to your parents? Filial piety. Now, if you're a happy person, successful, don't have to be successful in the world, but at peace with yourself, that makes your parents so happy. That's the way you pay respect. You can give them flowers, but all the parents want to know is you're happy and healthy and having no problems. And that makes the parents happy. That's what makes me happy. That's the proper etiquette to monks. During my meditation some years back, I saw a whole wall of little golden Buddha statues. That's meditation. Great. A few months back, I visited a Buddhist center in another state and saw these walls covered by little golden Buddha statues, similar to the ones I saw in my meditation 6 years ago. A sort of deja vu. This wall was built only 1.5 years ago. Does this mean I can see into the future? Wow. Do you know how many Buddha statues were there? Do you get any numbers from them? Now, how many in the first row, how many in the second row, how many in the third row? That could be a lottery number. People have these visions. We need to raise some funds for our nuns monastery, so we need all the help we can get. So who knows? That could have been. No, it could have been, but the very fact you saw these beautiful golden Buddha statues in the meditation, that was like a nimitta. And very often what you see afterwards, deja vu, is just, it's not like you predicted the future. It's just, you remember, you see that new thing and you remember it was something similar a long time ago. If you actually really recognize the vision in the meditation and the new one, you find there's many differences. But there's enough similarities to actually jog the memory. Can one be so contented at one stage of meditation that one refuses to enter into a deeper state? No, because it's not up to you to refuse to enter a deeper state or want to enter or not want to enter a deeper state. When you're content, you're out of control. That's what contentment means. You're letting go of the steering wheel. You're taking your feet off the pedals. You're not doing anything. That's called contentment. So, if there's refusing, it's not being content. If there's wanting, it's not being content. So what happens? You're content. And these things happen by themselves. The mangoes fall into your palm when you're content. You don't ask them to come. You can't stop them. If they come, they come. If they don't, they don't. That's called contentment. And then they all come. If I'm contented, my goodness, there's a lot of contentment questions here. If I'm contented, why would I want to be more compassionate, to get more wisdom and become more generous? Because you can't help it. That's what happens when you're content. When you let go, you're out of control. You can't help it. When I let this fall, when I let it go, it falls. Oops. That's where it goes. So when you let go, the mind falls into nimittas and into jhanas and into insight. That's just the way it goes. When you let go of your selfishness, you get more generous and more kind and more happy. It's just law of gravity. That's the way it works. Based on the story of the hissing snake, wisdom prevails over compassion. No, wisdom and compassion always go together. So the snake is compassionate. It doesn't want to let those boys make bad karma. It doesn't want to hurt them. It just goes hiss, 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 hiss. That's like being kind. So which one should prevail? If compassion, wisdom, generosity, contentment, conflict, which one should prevail? They can't conflict. Compassion is wisdom, and wisdom is generosity, and generosity is contentment. They all go together. They are just all aspects of one and the same thing. That's why if you want to have success in meditation, be generous. I don't mean giving money. That's easy to do. Give your whole life, your whole body, your whole mind to this moment. So here, life, I give it to this moment. Totally. You don't want anything more. You don't keep anything back for yourself. Give total to this moment now. Nothing for the past or the future, just everything for this moment. Wow, you get very peaceful then. Trouble is when people are generous, they always keep a bit back. Because I've got to pay for the taxi, I've got to do this, I've got to do that. That's why you don't get enlightened. So in this moment, give everything to your breath, nothing left. Give everything to the body. So you're not asking for jhanas, that's for you. It's like giving a donation and wanting a tax receipt so you can claim it back off your taxes afterwards. Again, that's like business again. So you just give this, your energy, your mindfulness to this moment. You don't ask for anything back in return. I don't want jhanas or enlightenment. I just give for the sake of giving. I just enjoy giving my time, my energy to this meditation retreat. I don't expect anything back in return. That's real giving, which is why it's generosity and letting go. That's why you get incredibly peaceful. But as soon as you meditate, wanting to get something in return, that's not giving anymore. It's called spiritual materialism, when you want something. Since coming here, I've had very clear, detailed dreams, dreamt bad dreams about loved ones, and woke up feeling very frightened. I dreamt about buying something I didn't like and told myself that I'd get it changed the next morning. Then I realized I didn't have the receipt. Is this a result of meditation, a result of going to bed with an empty stomach? No. It's all, whenever you have a dream, it always reflects on some of the negativity which you have or fears which you have in life. It's like you're becoming real. So look, if you spend the day feeling so peaceful and so happy and content, you'll have these wonderful dreams of being so peaceful, so happy and content. So obviously, people interpret dreams. So, if bad dreams about loved ones and woke up feeling very frightened, I don't know what those bad dreams about, but being told that you were buying something and you wanted it changed, it didn't have the receipt. That's like wanting something and not being able to change things. Again, being in control. So just let it go. If you buy something and you don't like it, just give it to somebody else. It's wonderful. You can pass somebody who wants it, so just pass it on. Dear Ajahn, please help to announce. This couple not so young, always washing dishes after breakfast and lunch. The dishes and... this couple not so young. It must be me. I'm not so young. Always washing dishing after breakfast and lunch. The dishes and trays are pretty heavy. Can some young guys, whether handsome or not handsome, take turn to help, even if your name is not on the roster list? Lady toilet, dirty and smelly. Anyone who on duty forgot to check and maintain, not fussy or complain. Of course it's complaining. Wish everyone help each other and stay happy, not only in meditation. Okay, so look after one another. If you see a toilet which is dirty, then don't clean it yet. Contemplate it first of all. This came from all that lovely food I had today. And then wash it. It's a nice kind of thing to do. Because I love doing services for others. I do services for you as much as I can. Even though you're a senior monk, it's not on my roster duty to open the door, but I love doing that for people. And just do it for the sake of fun and joy and happiness and service. And if you can help someone who's very old, help them. You get so much happiness. And you get great meditation afterwards. Why did you line the top of the meditation room with glass, making it bright and not dark like your cave? Isn't it easier to meditate in dark? It's easier to meditate in dark, but it's hard for me to see if you're meditating when it's dark. So it's teacher. And you also got council rules. You like to make people laugh, and you laugh too. That's why you look chubby, fat, kind, lovely, and young. Whoever said that is really doing well in their meditation. They are obviously very wise. They show great discernment. They got the greatest insight. I wish you long life. May you produce more Buddhist people in this world and at your monastery. Very nice. Is it possible to experience nimitta in waves, 5 or 6 in 2-hour meditation? Yes? It's true, you can do that. Would you please clarify the concept of karma or karma? A friend of mine the other day let a frame where a photo of herself and the ex-husband fell on the floor. The glass broke exactly on the part of her ex-husband's head. This is karma, she said. No, it's wishful thinking. Is such a thing anyhow conceptualized as karma, or karma would be better understood as something that conditions behavior? Yeah. Now look, those sorts of things happen, and don't read into them anything at all. It's just accidents that these things happen. Not all things happen according to karma, as I said last night in all those little jokes. So karma is, it's first of all, it gives you the ingredients. What you've done in the past gives you the ingredients of today. And what you do with those ingredients, how you make this work, and what you do with what you've got. Like Michelle, how she takes all these ingredients. Sometimes she hasn't got all the ingredients she would like to put in the cooking. So a really good cook adapts. Well, I haven't got, the oil, but maybe I can use something else. A good cook can use any ingredients and make a beautiful meal. Person knows the law of karma. It doesn't matter what ingredients you have to work with in life. You can make something beautiful and wonderful. You may have lost your job. You may have some sickness. You may not be the most intelligent person on the planet. It doesn't matter, but you can still make a beautiful life out of what you've got. It's what you do with what you've got is called karma. Dear Ajahn, by the time you read this note, I have already left this beautiful jhana grove. Oh, it's Marilyn. During the first few days of the retreat, I was a bit disappointed as my bad cough had restrained me from meditating in the main hall and my room. It must be a blessing in disguise that I started exploring new places to meditate. I now enjoy meditating in the woods. The peace within is beautiful. For the first time in my life, I enjoy doing nothing. And actually, she was a big executive. I think she said she got an executive of East Asia or something award one year. I would like to take this opportunity to thank all brothers and sisters who had kindly offered their medication remedy. Thanks to Dania, Michelle, and most importantly to our beloved teacher. That's me. For making this retreat possible. Hope to see you all again here or in Singapore. So remember, good or bad, nobody knows. Have a blessed retreat. That's Marilyn. She had to go back to work. Oh, no, I don't know why she went back, but she had to go back. If I do not have inner thoughts, how do I ask questions in question and answer session? Indeed, you don't ask questions so we can go to bed early. After nimitta comes jhana, but in jhana is a nimitta constantly present? No. In jhana, no nimitta, just bliss. Thank you to all the most wonderful ladies in cottage 3 for being so lovely and quiet. Who lives in cottage 3? Put your hand up. No one, only ghosts. Okay, so you're lovely because you're lovely and quiet. It can often be difficult to get away from constant chatter, even on meditation retreats, so you're all gems. And thank you to the biggest gem of all, Ajahn Brahm, for your most wise teachings. It is good to flush our dreams down the toilet bowl. Our demons, not a dream, sorry. Demons down the toilet bowl. And your talk this morning has the effect of further throwing in 2 spiked iron balls and a bucket of sulfuric acid. Okay, never mind the plumbing. If you find the spiked iron balls, you can rest assured none of us excreted it. Okay, not quite understand that, but later on when I get good nimittas, I can understand that. Year-end performance review is up. Year-end performance review is up, and I may unfortunately have to let someone go from the company. Should I try to keep them? I feel bad, and how should I let go of them in a compassionate way? Or is there an oxymoron question? Yes, your company can send them to Jhana Grove. And there I will convert them to being monk or nun. So then, they're leaving sort of the office. Well, actually, when you sack them, tell them the story of the king and, missing a finger. So you sack them and say, I'm letting you go, I'm sacking you. Now, is that good, bad, or who knows? Hopefully, I don't know. Anyway, in your opinion, what did Jesus mean in his dying breath when he said, God, why have thou forsaken me? I don't know, I wasn't there. If it regrets, is he questioning his faith that he is the Son of God? Thank you. No, you know the story, what he really said. There he was. If there's any Catholics here, I do apologize. This is a pretty sort of heretical and lack of respect, but it's a funny story. There was Jesus dying on the cross. And he was about to die. And all his disciples, they were distraught. They were upset. They were, they're so terrible feeling. And then just before Jesus died, he said the words. And I said, what did he say? I couldn't hear it. Shut up, listen, because he said it again. And no one could hear him. So the closest disciple, Peter, he climbed up on the cross and he put his ear to Jesus' mouth to get the last words from their teacher. And Jesus put all his effort in to go, and then he died. And Peter came down. Said, what did he say? What did he say? And Peter said, Jesus said, don't eat all my Easter eggs. I'm coming back in 3 days. Please don't tell these stories when you go back to Singapore. I will not be allowed back in the country. But they're funny. But also tell jokes about, Buddhist. I've already told a couple of Buddhist jokes already, so one of the nice things is to be able to laugh at yourself. Good Buddhist joke? Like a Buddhist monk joke. What fun do monks have? What's the answer? None, yeah. I never said that, you said that. It's not true. You see, so we can tell jokes about ourselves, so we should all laugh at ourselves. Dear Ajahn, sorry, but I really want to ask this unimportant question. Do you have a favourite Premier League soccer team? If so, which team? My husband supports Arsenal, but he's very up and mostly down with his emotions related to the game. those of you, it's actually true, because those of you who were here for my birthday, my brother was here, and he told you that when we were young, we used to go and watch Fulham. That was our local, because my father supported that team, so he dragged us up to there. And actually, they're doing quite well these days, but when I was a young man, they were always getting relegated. They were always losing. And it was actually, Ajahn Brahm, he's a nice friend. He got a joke book, and it was actually a joke about Fulham in the joke book. And then the man went into the pub with his dog, and they saw the soccer results. And the soccer result came up that Fulham were beaten by Arsenal 2-1. Fulham lost. And the dog said, "Oh no, Fulham lost again." And the owner of the bar said, "Does your dog always speak like this?" And he said, "Yes, because he's never seen Fulham win." And that was like a joke about my football team, but it was actually quite true. And that was one of the reasons I became a monk. It's just too much suffering watching soccer. I couldn't stand it any longer, so I escaped. And it's true, if you follow soccer or any other sport, you may follow Liverpool or Manchester United or Arsenal. Maybe once every 4 or 5 years you might win. And the rest of the time you suffer. And if you come second, that's real suffering. So it's a fool's game. The amount of happiness you get following soccer or any other sport is so little, and the amount of suffering is so much more. You suffer much more than you ever have happiness. How about Ajahn Brahm? Sometimes when I feel like my mind is full of thoughts, I write. And sometimes there are epiphanies and answers. Where do these answers come from? I don't know. Okay, when you write, your mind is full of thoughts, you write. And sometimes when you write, sometimes you're just expressing what you feel. And sometimes people are not mindful enough to know what's going on inside of them without writing things down. It's the same when people actually do any speaking to somebody like me, do some counselling. That you all know, if you ever go to counselling, the counsellor doesn't really tell you anything, but just gives you an opportunity to speak so you can listen to yourself and find out what's going on inside of you and what you really want. It's the same if any of you are married, you've got a partner, and your wife starts speaking. She doesn't want answers. She just wants the opportunity to speak so she can listen to what she says, so she can find out what she really wants. Because when you speak, you're listening to yourself. You find out what you want. That's why you say you bounce things off a person. You don't look for answers. You bounce things off it so you can find out what you really want. People close to me have said I'm an island and emotionally unavailable. I just think I'm not attached to things which might be misconstrued as being cold. How to open the door to one's heart without being cold, detached, but yet warm and sincere? Okay, there are times when I'm an island. I go into my cave and I shut both doors. And I say, keep out. I'm myself, but alone. There's other times when, you are with another person. And the way to understand how that works, the old story of the Emperor's 3 questions. The second one was, who is the most important person in the whole world? And the answer is, because hopefully you've heard that story before, it's a very powerful story. The most important person in the world is the one you're with, whoever that happens to be. So you, in this moment, are the most important person in the world for me. Now Danny is. Now you are. Now you are. The one in front of me is the most important person in the world. The most important thing to do is to care. So that's when I'm talking with you or giving you an interview. Hopefully, I've been training myself like this for many decades now. Hopefully, when I'm with you, you realize I'm really listening to you, that you are really important to me. Because when you're in front of me, you are the most important person in the world for me. Let go of everything else, and I care. That's how you can be emotionally with a person and understand them. But in about 10 minutes' time, I'll be in my cave. You're not there anymore. But I'm with me. And at that time, when I'm alone, I am the most important person in the world. And I care for me. That's why this evening, Before you go to sleep, you're laying in your bed. You're the only person there. So at that point, you are the most important person in the world. So please say to yourself before you go to sleep, good night, me. Have a great night. Have a really good rest, because I really care for you. I love you. Oh, we've had such good fun today. A lot of trouble, pain. But now we're in this cozy bed. Have a great night. See you in the morning. Good night. And when you wake up in the morning, hi, good morning, me. Nice to see you again. So say good morning to yourself when you first wake up. And say good night, me, before you go to sleep. Even if you get married and you're sleeping next to someone, you just close your eyes. The last thing you say good night to is yourself. Good night, me. Have a great night. It's a wonderful practice. And then you can be an island, but you can also be emotionally with the person as well. You can be both. Because the one in front of you becomes the most important person in the world. How many jhanas one can achieve? If you can just achieve one, that would be something. Do you able to differentiate each level? If so, how each level is like to a beginner who is not consistent in achieving jhana as yet? Just get one first, and then I'll teach you about number 2. Can a person be of multi-religion, that is, she or she goes to church and does Bible study and also goes to Buddhist studies and so on? If as long as one respects the truth, wherever that happens to be, you can study anything you want. But the most important thing is to be kind. The most important thing is to be open. So don't think that you know the truth. And never think that the truth lies in some book or some funny monk who sits in front of you morning and evening. This is not where the truth is. The truth is in your heart, not in any book. And if you trust in that truth in your heart and that kindness, then that will be your religion. That's what the Buddha said. Remember what I said Christianity should be? From the Gnostic Gospels, the word of Jesus. If you know the truth of yourself, you know the truth of all things. So read this book inside. Learn about life, not from books, but from experience. And then you'll have the religion of truth. You know yourself, you'll know the truth of all things. You want to call that Buddhism, Christianity, Islam, or whatever, I don't care. As long as it's truth. And you know the way you can recognize its truth. Truth is not something which creates wars. It doesn't create divisions between me and them. Truth is what causes harmony, peace, forgiveness, and love. So you know it by its effect. So anyone who kills in the name of God or in religion, that's not religion, that's not truth. You can know it. But anything which causes harmony and forgiveness, which causes one person to forgive another and to love them, that's religion, that's truth. Follow that. Okay, that was the last question, and a nice one to end on. Now is the time for you to go and do what I call meditating flat out. Lay down on your bed and let go. But before you fall asleep, remember to say, good night, me. See you in the morning. Okay, off you go.